Fair and MSNBC political analyst. Rick, that did not take long. And I'd love to start with you and get your reaction to this Christmas immigration MAGA civil war that is playing out. We all could see it coming over the last several months, and now it has, fully exploded into the wide open on X nonetheless.
It's an inevitability that the hyper-populist, non-college educated part of Trump's base, which is the plurality at the minimum, a majority if you take certain arguments, we're always going to be preconditioned to believe that the word immigration or the word visa always in their minds means brown people bad. And so they have this belief that the guy with the GED and his fake Oakley sunglasses, his goatee and his pickup truck, the universal Twitter bro that you see in every avatar on Twitter, that guy's thinking to himself, oh, well, I could have been the senior software designer at Google if only it weren't for DEI or immigration. It's absurd, but now you see these people that rely on that as a core part of their business, just like Donald Trump does also, by the way, for service staff at Mar-a-Lago and other resorts. You see this conflict. It's going to eventually, the hyper-populists, they don't really care about the more sophisticated arguments about H-1B or O-1 visas. They care around people bad. That's their whole driving conditioning they've had from Fox for years.
And it's so rich, Molly, when you see Elon Musk, who has, pretended to be a free speech warrior, a free speech absolutist, barely tolerating the criticism of Laura Loomer. I mean, not someone who has a lot of respect, not somebody who I think everyone looks at and says, oh, that is a champion of free speech herself. But here she is, taking aim at Elon Musk, who has now stripped her of her highly coveted verification badge, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of this should come as a huge surprise, but I think it's worth remembering that Elon Musk put $200+ million into this campaign. And I think he thought, as a lot of billionaires did, that Trump would be transactional and that they could give him money and get him to do what they wanted. Now, what they want is skilled workers for their companies, right? And you'll see, I mean, Tesla's like the third biggest user of H-1B1 visas. And there's a reason for that. They need the workers. So here's the question now. Donald Trump has a problem, right? He has a base that has elected him on quote unquote mass deportation now. They had it on signs. And then he has billionaires who paid for this campaign who want workers. And I think this is going to come to a head pretty quickly.
Eugene, I mean, Laura Loomer went on Steve Bannon's podcast to, again, blast Musk, not just on X, but take a listen to what she said.
I also have a problem with his ties to China. They support his Shanghai Gigafactory. Why does this guy have unfettered access to President Trump? And what are the national security implications of this?
I mean, you heard it there. I mean, she's basically now questioning and accusing him of disloyalty and being a national security risk to the security of America.
Yeah, she sounds like some Democrats that I've talked to over the years who had issues with us being around Donald Trump, right? It speaks to kind of when you have these sort of alliances built on mostly just winning, not a real policy prescription, not like a long list of things that they all care about, and mostly just winning, that it's easy to turn on each other, right? We saw that in Trump's first term around people, but we're going to see this more and more, especially on immigration. At the end of the day, immigration and the economy are the biggest issues that Donald Trump's voters cared about, right? It is the thing that he, especially on immigration, seems to care the most about when it comes to an actual policy in this country. And so he is not going to, it seems to me, allow, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the way on that. He is going to kind of follow his gut on this. And more importantly, he's someone who can be moved by kind of public rancor. And that includes, and most importantly, people in the MAGA movement. If he's hearing from folks who have been around for a long time that the MAGA faithful are upset with him because of H-1B1 or any other piece of immigration immigration that Elon Musk or Vivek Ramaswamy are for, they may see themselves on the outside, right? It could happen very quickly. And this is one of the things when we reported weeks and weeks and weeks ago, it could be years ago at this point, but earlier in the campaign that Elon Musk around Mar-a-Lago was starting to get frustrating for people and that they felt like he was going to wear out his welcome. This, along with the kind of kerfuffle he created around the continuing resolution a couple of weeks ago, are more examples of him trying to exert his power in a place in politics that is much more nuanced than even he might understand.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, if you take what both Eugene and Molly said, Rick, Elon, gave at least $250 million to GOP causes in this last election cycle. He's pledged more money to spend in the midterms. He can, to some extent, outflank Trump with his influence. I mean, even if Trump does want to get rid of Elon Musk in his orbit, Musk can still carry some influence inside Republican circles because of the money he yields. And that really raises the question, whose wrath do Republicans fear more? A second-term president who won't be able to run for office again, in theory, or the guy who has billions of dollars ready to spend to prop up and buy candidates left, right, and center?
And I think it's also important to understand the guy that controls the central social media platform for the MAGA movement.
Right.
And if Elon decides, as he's showing with these small fries like Loomer and Cernovich and Owen Schroyer, all those folks, taking away their verification, taking away their monetization, if he's willing to put his thumb on the scale, he's all in favor of free speech for himself, and he bought it. If he controls that platform, he can cause Trump a lot more pressure than Laura Loomer and these other ranters can cause. But I do think it's important to remember that the populist movement that's been telling Republican voters for a generation, probably arguably 2 generations, that immigration is the cause of almost all the evils in their life. I think Molly and Eugene are both right. He's going to be hearing this from those grassroots folks, and it will cause a tension with Elon that I don't think is reconcilable.
Molly, so to that point, it is the first big test of MAGA's ability to coordinate and govern. How would you rate their performance so far?
Well, I almost feel like the first big test might have been when Donald Trump asked them to shut down the government and then was like, let's get this debt ceiling raised. And that was the whole thing that just didn't even happen at all. Look, the problem is Donald Trump promised everything to everyone. So he said, I'm going to make things cheaper. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And a lot of those things that Donald Trump promised are things that are not doable, right? And so now you have the chickens coming home to roost. And I think it's really going to be a problem. And I think this immigration thing is almost unreconcilable between the two forces. And remember, Elon Musk really did bankroll much of this. And so he's not going to go away quietly.
Eugene, we're also hearing more from the incoming Trump administration over their mass deportation plans. Let me play for you and our viewers a clip from the so-called border czar, Tom Homan. Listen.
We have no plan to separate children from parents. The parents will have to make a decision. That's parenting 101. But if you chose, I'm going to say it again, if you choose to have a child here in the United States while you know you're here illegally and you know you're on a court order to deport, that's on you. So I think most parents will keep their families together.
It's almost as if he doesn't know that even American children, citizens that are American children, have constitutional rights. They're not just simply up to the discretion of their parents' legality.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, also, apologies for the phone ringing. That's my grandmother's phone. My grandmother, usually not a problem at my house with the landline. But you're right. I think, when you're hearing from him is what you also hear from Donald Trump himself, right? They look at the kind of blowback they had on family separation, and it seems like the fix that they've come to is keep the families together, and then everybody has to go, right? I don't know that that's going to be any less controversial controversial, especially when the kids are that they're talking about. Many of them, if not all of them, will be American citizens if they actually go through with this. But this is something that Donald Trump clearly sees as a fix to making clear the promise that he made to his voters about immigration and some kind of mass deportation was going to happen, and that his voters and a lot of other people are going to have to put their money where their mouth is and actually get these things done. This seems to be a place in which they want to do it. And honestly, when you look at polling, mass deportation, it kind of, I guess, polls well with a lot of Americans are for it. However, when you dig into what that actually means, and then you ask people, okay, your neighbor gets snatched out of their home, or the kid has to go because they're taking the parent out, then you get different answers from folks. And so this is going to be one of those places that Donald Trump, who, like I said a little bit earlier, can kind of be moved by public pressure. If the media is too bad around some of this, you might see some squishiness around it. But what they're saying right now is that the fix to, family separation is everybody kind of has to go together, even if the kids are American citizens. That is not going to be uncontroversial. And this is something, when I talk to Democrats, that they're ready to take that fight on because they think that's something that they can win and that they can flip the House in just a couple of years.
Yeah, not just politically, but also legally. I suspect there'll be a lot of fights if something like that is attempted or implemented. Eugene Daniels, Rick Wilson, Molly Jung-Fast, thank you to the three of you for starting us off this hour. And here's what's coming up later in the program. Photos like this one gripping the nation in a year full of historic and compelling stories that came to life through the lens of a camera. Plus, new warning signs inside the intelligence community about Trump's controversial cabinet picks. But first, new questions swirling about Russia's involvement in a deadly plane crash on Christmas Day. All that and much more when Deadline White House continues after a quick break.
That's why we do it, Marcy.
Gathering the most in-depth info, creating a better way for people
to find the perfect home to build their lives.
Are you okay?
No, it's a dust-based allergy.
Ding dong.
Homes.com. We've done your homework.
When you need brutal honesty, when you need answers first thing in the morning, you need your Morning Joe, weekdays at 6, only on MSNBC.